So President Trump shoved his foot directly in his mouth at one of his rallies talking about COVID. Watch.
Sleepy Joe Biden and his group of incompetents to delay the vaccine, shut down the country. He actually suggested that he would shut down the country. We now know the disease. We didn't know it. Now we know it. It affects elderly people with heart problems and other problems. If they have other problems, that's what it really affects. That's it. You know, in some states, thousands of people, nobody young, below the age of 18, like nobody. They have a strong immune system. Who knows? You take your hat off to the young because they have a hell of an immune system. But it affects virtually nobody. It's an amazing thing. By the way, open your schools. Everybody open your schools.
It affects virtually nobody, he says. It affects virtually nobody. The numbers do show that young people fare a hell of a lot better. That's true. However, there are still young people who die from getting it. Some of them with pre-existing conditions, some of them without. But beyond that, I have to bring this up because it's driving me crazy. Why does everybody casually act like the older people don't matter or people with pre-existing conditions don't count? Of course they count. Of course they matter. This flippant way of discussing it. Dude, 200,000 Americans are dead. 200,000 Americans are dead. And he says it affects virtually nobody. So in some ways, he's arguing, hey, the really old people, the people with pre-existing conditions, maybe obese people, do they really count? Do they really count? Maybe they should have been in better shape. I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting from what he's saying here. Is that the undesirables are the ones who are really dying from this thing. I mean, that really is quite an admission. Virtually nobody. Virtually nobody. I mean, young have a good immune system, so, they're good. But virtually nobody's being affected by this. So the 200,000, virtually nobody? I really hope Biden and the Democrats are cutting ads with that exact part. I really do hope so. Because that's unforgivable. This is your number one job. By the way, right now the election looks like it will be a referendum on COVID. Because that's what all the polls are showing, that's the main issue. And he's handling it terribly. Because he can't even pretend to be serious for an extended period of time. After a while, it just falls apart. And he ends up saying what he really believes, which is get over it. Virtually nobody's being affected. Young people are fine. He's going after Biden for contemplating more potential shutdowns. I mean, that's not, you think that's crazy. It's not crazy when you have 200,000 Americans dead. I get it. It would be a tough thing, but to act like that's absurd. What's absurd is 200,000 Americans dead. That's what's absurd. Now, I agree that if we do a shutdown, there has to be more economic relief. If we do full-scale shutdowns again, you can't do that without stimulus checks, without a universal basic income, without some way of letting people get by. But 200,000 people are dead. And, he's up there almost doing this semi-stand-up comedy routine where he's going after Biden in these ways. And it's the vibe of it, the feel of it is just dark. It's just dark. It's just so disconnected from what's happening in the country. The economic pain people are feeling, the pain of the virus. When you have 200,000 Americans dead, let me tell you something. So many people throughout this country are experiencing some sort of pain related to COVID-19. Are they going to like the fact that their leader, who's supposed to be the one in charge of this stuff, is out there saying this? No. I think this is going to hurt him. I do. I think this is going to hurt Trump. Because he's already viewed as not taking COVID seriously, and it's the number one issue. And then you go out there and say something like this, downplaying the virus. This is the last person in the country who I would want to downplay the virus. Your job is supposed to be to keep us safe as well. He's going to fearmonger about rioting and looting. Oh my God, they're coming for you in suburbia. How many people are dead as a result of rioting and looting? How many people are dead? Seriously. Is it anywhere near 200,000? Imagine 200,000 people died because of rioting and looting. He would never shut up about it. It'd be the biggest story ever. It's we're in a civil war. That's what we're in. We're in a civil war. That's what he would say. But when it's a virus, they're old. They're old. What are you going to do? They might have maybe had pre-existing conditions. As if you could just disregard them and dismiss them. They don't really count. That's virtually nobody. No, it counts. It counts. We all know somebody and love somebody, or maybe you yourself have the pre-existing condition, or you yourself are older. To just be flippant and glib and disregard it. It's just, everything is just so, I don't even know the word for it. Like, when he goes up there and does these rallies and talks, it's just like, it's so narcissistic and selfish and misleading and crafted in a way where he tries to control the entire narrative. But there are some things where you just can't override reality with bravado and with showmanship. And he tries to, but you can't do it when it's something as serious as this. I mean, to imagine 200,000 Americans are dead. If I told you 3 years ago, there's going to be a pandemic, 200,000 Americans are going to die from it, and then Numbnuts is going to do a rally where he says virtually nobody died from this. You'd be like, no, that's too crazy, that's too much like a movie, that's too insane. But here we are. Here we are. Cut those ads. Do it now. Because everybody should know what he really thinks about what's going on. And lest you think, oh, this is just something he says, but in reality, he's taking the virus very seriously behind closed doors. We just covered the story about how the Postal Service was going to mail 5 reusable masks to every American. And Trump axed it and said, I don't want to panic people, so we're going to say no masks for people. Yeah, that's who this guy is. It's not like he's poo-pooing the virus publicly, but behind the scenes, he's like, I will defeat this virus for the American people who I love. No, he's poo-pooing it publicly. He's poo-pooing it privately. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Do you understand that? He cares about getting reelected. And in his mind, he thinks, oh, I'll get reelected if I downplay the virus. So I'm going to downplay it. Virtually nobody. The 200,000 people, virtually nobody. Virtually nobody. This son of a bitch. 200,000 Americans dead. Over 60 9/11s. That's what that is. Half the U.S. casualties of World War II. Over 40 Iraq wars or war on terrors from the American perspective in terms of U.S. soldier deaths. Virtually nobody. Let that sink in.